here on YikesRadio.com. And you're here, now here in the Poetry of Justice show. This is where social consciousness meets the arts. And what we do is we select topics that spark the interest and awareness of social diversity, ranging from arts, entertainment, and social justice at large, leaving our listeners thinking and saying, yikes! Radio. Now, Dante, those are the sultry sounds of my mentor, Mr. Kevin Nash. Kevin Nash is the owner of this proprietorship here at Accelerated Radio. And what I always do is I give love, honor, and respect to Kevin, because if it were not for him and his platform, people like me wouldn't be able to be here doing what I love to do so very much. So I always give shout out to him. And then just to be in the likes of Kevin Nash, I just celebrate that. So so shout out to my mentor, Mr. Nash. And then, of course, I give all honor and respect to my amazing big sister and benefactor, Miss Lori Ray Fisher of Gingy Productions and Entertainment Company. Thank you so much for your continued support, love, and look, this whole amazing panel that the Lord has blessed me with tonight. It all comes way of my amazingly beautiful sister at the University of Southern California. So I just always want to give you love, honor, and respect, and we're going to give you so much more of that throughout the night. And then I'm going to give respect to my other benefactor, Mr. W. and PJ Steelworks, as well as APS Muscle Cars. So I just want to give you guys a little tidbit about APS Muscle Cars. There's been an expansion with our APS guy, and so what he has now is a second piece of property over in Signal Hill, where what he's doing is high-end vehicle restoration. Now, my sister said we're going to be selling weave hair out of the back once it gets popular.
We can get it.
I agree. Yes, that's a good hustle.
Thanks. I'm telling you.
That is the amazing
Our
side hustle.
right?
That is my side hustle. It is going to blow up.
That's it.
And so, in all reality, though, he's really, guys, he's high-end restoration, guys. This guy is amazing. He's a genius with restoring vehicles. But what we're doing now is, if you need a place to store that vehicle, we have a place for you right here in Signal Hill. So shout out. So, guys, here we are, another night, Saturday, Poetry of Justice show. And I have the amazing Judith Shelton here.
Yay.
Jessica DiGiovanni. Did I say it properly?
You sure did.
I love you. I practiced all night.
Oh, good.
After I did the ad.
You crushed it.
Because I didn't have it as pristinely the first visit, and I was like, oh my God.
It's intimidating.
Kind
It's a lot of
bothered me
letters.
The whole show, so
Yeah.
I don't like that. So thank you.
Of
And
course.
of course, the amazing Jeremiah Wright. How you doing today?
I'm
Big
good.
snaps.
I'm doing good. How are you?
Jeremiah, he's a regular here.
He is.
How you doing tonight, Jeremiah?
I'm doing great. I love to be here. Every time I can come, I love to.
I appreciate it. You know, I feel about time. Judith, one of the things that Lori and I do, and what we always give is respect to people's time, because, you know, we can get men back, you can get friends back, you can get things back, but your time, we can never get that back. So we thank you so much, and thank you to the entire panel for always coming and spending your time, because you don't have to come here. You guys love us, so we love you back. Thank you. Yay. Lori,
Yes.
the art of comedy.
Yes.
All the way from Lord G. So why the art of comedy tonight here?
Well, I think we, as USC representatives, our campus has been going through some challenges. They really have, and there is a rise of an opioid epidemic just nationwide, and USC is a microcosm of the bigger world, and we're starting to see that effects of that on our campus, and anxiety is at its all-time high, and students are much more troubled. I've been in this higher ed thing for over 30 years, and I have never seen the level of anxiety and concern and depression that I see today. And so these guys here do incredible stuff with comedy and laughter and the ability to leave your current place of anxiety and fear and go some other place, but also too being able to channel that into something that is much more productive. And so I thought that would be a great show for us, and why why not get some of our folks who are on the front lines to come in and share that with our listeners?
Well, without further ado, I'm gonna turn that over to you with proper introductions for each one. Lily.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So we're so very blessed at the university to have stumbled upon Miss Judith Shelton. She teaches our stand-up comedy, and we tried it out with like 2 sections, right? And we went from 2 sections to like 10. She's just teaching off the charts. And her courses stay packed, and she was so nervous. This is the crazy part. She was so nervous her first time teaching.
Yes.
She wanted to be sure that she was going to get in there, that she was going to know everything. And I'm like, Jude, you're going to be fine. You're going to be great. And her students just love her. And they just want to take the courses over and over and over again. So she's incredible. She's also a professional stand-up comic, so I'm excited about that. Also some comedic acting, which I want to talk about too.
Wow.
So we are privileged to have Jude join us.
Yay.
And then we have Miss Jessica Di Giovanni, is that right?
That's right.
That's
There
right,
you
I
go.
practiced too. There we go.
You
And-
can be like Di Giovanni. I mean,
There
it's
you go.
however you want.
I've got to put that accent on it.
Yeah,
I
if
don't
you
have
want,
that
if you
part
want, it's no
just
big deal.
yet. And so Jessica's a great friend of USC. We haven't gotten her on faculty just yet,
No.
right? But that will be in our making. And I met Jessica through Jeremiah, who is on faculty, as you guys know, because he's a friend of the show. And Jessica joined us a few months ago.
Yeah.
Right? A few months ago here on the show. And she shared with me then that she is a comic. I didn't
Yes, she
know that. She shared that. So I was like, oh my gosh, wouldn't it be wonderful to have Jessica join us and to share all of the amazing things that she's done. She's actively working, and she can really give advice about what it's like out there every day. You know, and I admire her so much because she picks herself up and gets back out there, you know, whether she's working or not working. The thing is, her spirit is so light, and she's so very positive. And this is my buddy here. And she supports my buddy. And I love that. That she's always got some positivity to say. So, and then Jeremiah decided to grace us with his presence.
Oh.
Isn't that right?
I just gave her a ride. No, I'm teasing. You all let me.
He's my ride. He's my ride.
tonight?
You all let me join you. I feel so privileged.
Right. Who is also an esteemed faculty member at USC. And Jeremiah, how many years have you been with us now?
5 years now.
5 years. And you know, the one thing that you can count on with Jeremiah is he is so innovative. He's always thinking about the creation of new classes. I mean, he's brought us storytelling classes, self-tape, storytelling for scientists. He teaches a great course for individuals who want to be hosts of television shows, or guest works with our athletic department in getting our athletes into our classes. But he also teaches our classics, our basic 101 introduction to acting class. So he's just our Renaissance guy.
Oh,
And I
like
thought,
that.
exactly.
Renaissance.
So why not have a Renaissance man on the panel,
Right.
that'll be able to just talk about a whole myriad of
I'll take that.
things. Right?
Thank you. Man.
So we're
You should
very
be my
excited.
manager.
to have- Look at you.
Look, I see a new career in
There we
writing.
go. Look at that.
Yeah.
On the horizon.
That,
Yeah, so the panel means a lot to me, and I'm very grateful to each and every one of you for taking time out on your Saturday night to share with us.
I have to
Grateful to be
say,
here.
Lori, you mean so much to us. And Lori said how nervous I was. I was really nervous because I had been teaching adults in Atwater Village, but I hadn't worked at a university with this age group in an academic setting. So I was in Lori's office all the time, all the time.
Oh my God.
And maybe even a tier one, maybe,
One or
but yes, yeah, 1 or 2. But she gave me a lot of help, so I appreciate it.
You are so
Yay.
Judith, how did you know comedy was for you?
Oh, that's a great question. I was raised by nuns, So I grew up in a convent school from 11 until I graduated high school, and I wanted to be a nun. I loved my nuns so much. My mom had some addiction issues, and my dad had passed away from alcoholism, and so I went to live with the nuns, and they were so funny and so good to me. They were based out of Chicago, but we were in Colorado, and they were, I really think they had something to do with my sense of humor. So I begged them after graduation, I want to stay, I want to be a nun. And they said, no, you're a comedian, you have to go,
Oh my God,
you have to
wow.
go to Hollywood.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
I know.
Trust you.
They threw me out is what I'm
They kicked me out.
saying.
We talked together, like we talked together.
Yes.
Like,
You
yeah.
gotta get your
God
out.
said,
Yes.
God said,
Yeah.
She's like, go.
Yeah. So I came to, I mean, I will say this, when I was a very young kid, I experienced a lot of bullying. I'm a big person, and also I had some issues in school studying. I had dyslexia, so I had some issues with bullying. And at one point in the lunchroom, somebody threw a pizza at me, and it went, and there was just pizza sauce, but I didn't know what to do, so I grabbed my stomach and pretended like I was dying, and the whole room started laughing. Yes.
I like that shift.
That's
You
great.
get, I see, I gotta get my pen. That
That's
shift.
great.
You know what I'm saying? I'm just gonna roll with it. You took something. Okay, how about I'm gonna go here with it. Let's go with the nuns. You meant it for evil, right? But you turned it around for your good. They meant
Yes.
it for evil against you, and then you turned it around for your good. And so you
Yes.
figured, okay, well, you're gonna throw this and do this to me. I'm gonna take the power away
Yes.
from you, and I'm gonna. My sister and I talk about that all the time, and I think that's like a really good undercurrent, if you will. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
Yes.
okay, if this is gonna happen right now, I'm gonna be in control of how this plays out.
You know what, Jackie? I'm not sure I knew that I was doing that at the time. I think I
Was
just.
it autopilot?
It was autopilot. It was like, I can't, this is so humiliating. It was in front of the whole lunchroom. And then I grew up watching Bugs Bunny and Snoopy and the Muppets, and I just went into that sort of Muppety zone and so I don't know if I was as smart as that, it just was autopilot. But after that,
Mhm.
I was like, yes, I'm gonna use this every time I feel attacked or I feel weird.
But that's what sparked it,
Yeah.
right? That
Yeah.
experience. And I guess where I'm going is, I know we didn't understand it. You didn't understand at that moment what you were doing, but I'm thinking that's the power of the brain. And it takes us, it protects us. So your brain protected you and said,
Yes.
it told you to do that. You did it, and it worked. And you're like, hey, it worked. So I could do it again. And then I'll do it, and now look at you. Now you're in control of it. Now you're teaching other people. But that one spark, that's what Lori and I talk about here. You know, you just spark the interest and awareness, just that, and then you just never know. You know what I mean? Where that's gonna go. But to be able to handle it, it sounds like it helps with a lot of healing.
Definitely, I think especially in terms of justice, there's not just justice socially, but justice personally, like reclaiming who I am, making things right in my own world, and, standing up for myself, and that really helped. Yeah, making people laugh was so much easier.
What do you think about that, Jessica? It's just, how has comedy for you? Has it helped in any way in terms of healing or anything?
Yeah, absolutely. I love this story so much. I hope you don't mind if I like recycle it in my real life. I think that's such a beautiful
Sure.
story. I mean, it's horrible, but at the same time, it shows how resilient you are as a person. That you have this, you held on to this like sense of play and this kind of like joy. I mean, it didn't come from a place of joy, but it gave other people joy. And that's kind of, yeah. I found a lot of healing in comedy in my life. I found that I could make my family laugh, and there were some tumultuous times at home, and so like that was my way of just like getting out of hard times or like when things got really rough. And then I was also bullied in middle school, and that's when I actually really found theater. I mean, I'd done musicals before, but that was when I when I was really found like a place where I belonged, you know, and I think that's all that we really want, is to feel like we belong and that we're loved and, you know, to be heard. And that's where I found my voice. You know, I'm still finding my voice, but yeah, the humor was where I was able to disarm women who I felt were like intimidated by me, or I would walk into a room and I would get that weird vibe. I immediately like crack a joke and like, I'm the silly one, and everyone's like, oh, okay, she's not a threat, you know. So like that's also a way to like it's a great way to disarm people though,
Okay,
you
we're
know.
gonna start right there.
Well, with men too, you know, when I get that.
Let's sit on that for a minute. Why, Jessica?
What?
Are there scenarios in life that
Yes.
where you are a winner, you have to pretend to be a loser because
Absolutely.
there are freaking losers around you?
Haters.
I'm just
This is
saying,
the
I've
work
seen
I'm
it in
doing.
a film. I saw it in the film.
This
They're
is the work
haters.
I'm doing. Absolutely. Like why how did I learn to like make myself smaller in order to make other people feel comfortable? That's called codependency, everyone.
Yes.
But also
I just have to
it was
interrupt. From my neighborhood, it's called survival.
okay. Survival. Yeah.
It's called survival.
Well, exactly. And for me, like, I used to work in a restaurant, and there was this extremely lecherous owner of this restaurant that I used to work at, and he was handsy with all of the girls, and so many of them played into it and were like flirting with him too.
Handsy, like
Oh,
touching,
just like
touching.
on their waist, coming up behind them. Maybe it's a Midwest term. I don't know.
No, it's a great
Make a
term,
note.
but I mean, just the nerve of him being.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And he walked around like a bulldog with like a stick up his butt.
Yeah.
I don't know. Can we swear?
You
I
can
don't know.
totally.
Yes,
Um,
totally.
And-
Xradio.com.
Yikes. With a
Yikes.
stick up his yikes. And so I saw that initially, and like within the first interaction with him, I was like, oh, hey, Johnny, you know, and, like, I did something weird, and then immediately he was like, okay, she's the weird girl, there's nothing happening here, and so like that was my way of creating space and distance and keeping myself safe in like a majorly #MeToo situation. So for me, it
Wow.
definitely became a survival mechanism for me. But now I get a lot of joy from it. Like I have so much fun collaborating with people and making people laugh. And when you know and you realize and people tell you you have a gift and a talent for it, and you enjoy doing it, and you can make a living at it, it's like, it's such a gift. It's like, well, I'm just gonna keep going until like a higher power shifts me to another direction. But right now this feels like it just feels like an effortless ease in this direction. So I need to just keep going that way until it leads me somewhere else. But yeah, that's the role that comedy played for me for sure.
And multi-talented down there.
Our Renaissance man.
Oh, Renaissance, yes.
Renaissance.
Well, I don't know if I can speak on comedy like these two great women can, but I know like you were saying, Lori, I learned the sense of humor and how to use humor as a tool in classrooms, becoming the class clown, because being like one of the only white kids in my group, like it was just. I don't know if I would even call it bullying at that point, because it's like so severe that it's like every day that it becomes a survival thing, and so you learning how to use humor like that, and learning how to disarm people like that, I think was became a very valuable tool for me, and I use humor in my classes all the time now. What I like to do right now, and I think my students are, because they're very, very smart, at USC, they're highly performing individuals, and I think they're catching on to my game this semester, which is they're saying, oh, you feign being old, because I say, oh, what is this, the Instagram, what's the Facebook, go on the Netflix, and so I do these things to make myself seem more distant and old, even though I understand what they're doing, but I use it as a tool to try to prove points or to disarm certain other things, or as a means whereby of like kind of couching a policy like no phones in class or something like this, so that way it doesn't come across as harsh, like spoonful of sugar, kind of that kind of thing. And so I use humor now in that way, but back in the day, yeah, I used it for sure as survival. I remember I was in Long Beach, where Poly is, Long Beach Poly.
Yeah.
Anyway, on MLK, there's a park across the street back in the day that used to be like the gang park. And And I remember these two gangsters rolled up on me, these essays, and one of them had a gun, and I swear to God, I made one of them laugh. I just made one of them laugh. He's like, "Give me all your money." I was like, "I got $1." That's it. And he's like, "What?" I was like, "No, I'm serious, man. All I got is $1." And he kind of laughed, and I was like, "All right, well, you can have this $1. I'm gonna be on my way." And so I just gave him the $1, and that was it.
Wow.
Yeah, I
Hey,
remember that one.
whatever works,
Yeah.
right?
Hey.
I think
That was
what's-
a good move.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Judith.
I think what's so beautiful about comedy is by saying I have $1, he's treating that other person as a human. They're having just a conversation, and when we laugh, things decelerate. So comedy's so lovely for conflict.
Oh yeah.
Something to say.
Not a
Okay.
health benefit.
Yeah, true.
All right, panelists, let's take this phrase and see where we can go with it. You know how I do, Jessica.
Yeah.
Comedy, a type of drama or other art form, the chief object of which, according to modern notions, is to amuse. If it is contrasted, on the one hand with tragedy, and on the other with a farce, burlesque, or some other form of humorous amusement. Amuse. So like we were saying, I just know for me, where I want to go with this is like when I think about comedy, it always, like you're saying, when tragedy is going on, I know where I want to go to where comedy made a very impactful difference in my life. And my sis, you may can relate to this. It was after the passing of our daddy in 1985. It was very traumatic for us. And my mom, her and daddy had been together about 35 years. So everything she knew. And she started watching the movie Arthur. That was back in the day when
Oh
on
my
TV
Yeah.
just hit the scene.
You only had one
Everything else.
channel, on or off.
Oh, right,
That was
it
cable.
didn't
Was
come
on
on
or
back
off.
then, y'all, until like 5 p.m.,
Yes.
right?
Awesome.
It's
That's when it
all
came
right.
on.
It didn't even come on. And remember, Lord, when you did on,
On.
you
It
just
was
turn
turn
the
it
shit
on.
Oh, right, yeah.
That was, it was called no Spectrum.
It was
No.
called On TV.
On
Yeah.
TV. This
That's
was
awesome.
legendary.
Yeah.
So anyway, we started on TV, and so who's the actor? But the movie Arthur.
Dudley Moore.
Oh my God.
Oh.
My mind,
Liza
that was
Minnelli.
our savior
Yeah, we watched it
Comedic
continually.
Yes.
Continually.
to help with the intense pain
Yes.
of him transitioning. And Lori, to this day, she and I quote, we like know this film back and
Yes.
forth and forth
Yeah,
and
we
back, and
I'll
we would
alert
just
the
watch it
media.
over and over again, and it just would make us laugh and laugh and laugh, and then we just got into other things. But I just saying in terms of I can take a parallel of tragedy, just kind of just from this little excerpt from Google, you know,
Mhm.
just kind of where it has changed my life. And then I know I used that with the passing when Lori and I lost mom, when our mom passed, and one of the films that really helped us was, of course, legendary Eddie Murphy, but we started watching Nutty Professor.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh my God, I was just
Again,
gonna say
and
that.
just-
Yeah.
I was gonna say it's another
And it,
film.
right, the Nutty
Yeah.
it's like,
So
it's
good. So
it's
good.
just killing you. Yeah, I mean, how can you not
Yeah.
laugh at that?
It's so good.
It's amazing.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
And he was
Yeah.
doing that with a green screen. I mean, he's
Yeah.
such a genius.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So fun.
So I could comment, it's so applicable, and it's just so, in terms of attachment to the show here in the Poetry of Justice show, and being able to be blessed to have the art of comedy here. You know what I did is I wrote down a couple definitions, and then we could just like dive into some of these, and the panelists, we can go around and talk about it. Just like the word art, A-R-T. I did just like a little basic look at the word art. Being a skill acquired by experience, study, or observation. A branch of learning. And of course, that's why I'm bringing here tonight, because we have scholars from the University of Southern California here tonight. So when I look at the word art, and it was like just where social consciousness meets the arts, you know what I'm saying? Just that part of the show. And so what I was just looking at that, just to kind of wonder, in your teaching, particularly Judith, I'll start with you, in your teaching, how do you bring yourself to convey that and pass that over to your students?
Well, I definitely, the first day, I tell them, I'm going to tell you how to write for stand-up. I'm gonna give you, exercises and definitions, but the truth is, it is an art form where the fingerprint of the artist is mandatory, where I believe that because it's art, it's allowed to be special. So we don't have to follow rules exactly. I think the only rule, especially in stand-up, is that they do it, and they have to do it over and over and over again, and they get better. But I think I always tell them you have to study the art of stand-up comedy, because it's special in and of itself. It has its own history, it has its own stars, it has, and it really is different from improv, it's different from sketch, and it is an art form because it's a person, a human soul creating in the moment and putting their fingerprint on the world.
That's beautiful, oh my gosh.
I like that.
So many people here all of a sudden.
Loves
It's
to do
built
that.
up.
Filled up.
Sweet.
I'm sorry.
What?
Okay, so I have another phrase for the lovely Jessica.
Yeah.
Comedy, a medieval narrative that ends happily. A medieval narrative that ends happily. A literary work written in a comic style. Last night when I was doing my ad yesterday, a literary work written in a comic style. I thought of you, Jessica.
You did?
I absolutely did. I don't know if you noticed on the ad, it comes right after you.
Yes, it does.
It's
Yeah,
strategic. That was all strategy.
Okay. You know what
There
you're
are no
doing.
accidents. Yeah.
You've done this once or twice.
But if you think about your comic style, where do you put yourself on the genre scale?
This is a great question because I
Lucille
think
Ball.
that I'm Lucille Ball. Well, I think I started out very Lucille Ball,
That's awesome.
especially
Wow.
physical comedy.
Physical
Just
comedy.
like I love
Lucy.
shticky
Yeah,
stuff. Like,
I love Lucy.
I played a character in high school. It's still maybe one of my favorite plays I've ever done, where I played a male role, but I was like, I literally felt like this, you know, and I had like suspenders, and I walked weird, and I was like, hey, you know, and I was like, I loved that. So there's something about like the vaudevillian thing I really like, which is why I'm creating my own show eventually. I'm starting to write a series for myself, and I'm just trying
Oh.
to figure out how to marry that into it, because I also really like the single cam kind of comedy. Like I like the Fleabag idea, and I like shows like Veep. So I'm not really sure where my comedic style right now falls. I know it's not self-deprecating, but I know it involves a lot of like moments where I'm not being angry and then I blow up, because I really love I love that kind of humor too, like when you're putting a lid on it and then all of a sudden there's this huge blow up. Yeah. But also I love physical comedy, like Robin Williams, Jim Carrey.
When you were speaking about earlier your rendition with the suspenders,
Yeah,
I totally
I mean-
went straight Mork from Ork.
Yes.
I totally
Yes.
went
Yes.
straight Mork from Ork.
Yeah.
Those were good times.
I had a
Yeah,
pair.
because I also really love sketch.
You had a pair.
She did have a pair.
Yes.
I love more
Photos or it
Oh,
didn't happen.
so-
I had a pair.
We should put those on the website.
I even had a little bitty egg. Remember he arrived here in the
Oh,
egg?
yes.
I had an egg.
Oh, do you still
Yeah,
have those?
you're a super fan.
Oh, that is the
Oh, man,
best.
that's awesome. We could frame those.
I
Yeah.
loved Robin Williams.
Yes.
So Jessica,
Mhm.
one name, Carol Burnett.
Oh my God, yeah,
Uh-oh,
Carol
Carol
Burnett. Carol Burnett, 100%. Oh
Yeah.
God, I mean, there's so many. Madeline Kahn. I really like Amy Poehler too.
Yeah.
I relate to her comedy a lot.
Kristen Wiig.
Kristen Wiig is really funny, yeah. But yeah, Carol Burnett, and Lucille Ball, just those women who kind of paved the way too. You know.
I know I saw an interview with Martin Lawrence a few years back.
Oh,
when
yes.
he was doing Martin. And he was asked a question, what is one of his inspirations and influencers? Lucille Ball.
Yeah.
The
Yes.
physicality of it.
Mhm.
He said when he did the piece, Laura, you know, oh God.
The kung fu
The,
one?
you know, no.
Oh, yes, what's his name?
Right,
Something
man.
Dragon?
Oh, yes.
Dragonfly
Dragonfly Jones, yeah,
See,
Dragonfly
that's how you
Jones.
already knew. He said that he thought, what
He had
will
the-
Lucille
What will Lucille
Ball
do?
When he had the teeth, and he would be like,
Yeah.
Oh my
oh,
Great
yes.
day.
And he had Shanae.
Yes.
He said
Oh
he
my
based
God.
his sister, he based that character off his sisters.
Oh, wow.
Can I tell my Martin Lawrence story?
You
Yes.
must tell us.
So I was on this show in the 90s called The Gregory Hines Show, and it was on CBS. Yes. Oh yeah, he was great. And I was a series regular, played his secretary. And a lot of our set dressers and our set dresser worked on Martin, which is one of my all-time favorite
Oh,
shows.
yeah.
All-time favorite. So I actually have the picture of Shanae and Kid.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, forever
Shanae.
Forever
Shanae.
Shanae.
Yes. And so at our wrap party, Martin Lawrence came, and everybody knew I was gonna lose it. And so I took a picture with Martin, and I'm very tall, and I might have been this same weight, so I was really big. I had this big blonde hair, and I took a picture with him, and I was so excited. It was the time when you had to go get your pictures
Oh,
developed.
yeah.
So I
Right.
turn and turn and turn, and I'm like, who's this little boy? And it was Martin Lawrence. He just like fit right here. My boob was
So
right on
nice.
his head. Yeah.
That's
Oh, but I,
awesome.
So it's
I
framed
love
is
him.
what you're
Yes,
saying?
it is
Yeah.
framed. And it looks weird.
You got a painting made of it?
Yes,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
tattoo.
Great,
Yeah.
great. Back
Yeah.
tattoo.
Oh,
Yeah.
but I love him so much.
He's
He
so
did
good.
so much for me in comedy. So
Mhm.
great. Yeah.
He had an interview recently on it might have been Stephen Colbert. I think it was Stephen Colbert, where he's promoting his new movie, the Bad Boy 3 movie,
Right.
and he talked about his show. Martin, yeah, but he talked about his show and how he brought in all of these characters, and he said he wanted his show to be a hit. He's like, I wanted it so much to be a hit, and I knew that I had to bring in characters, and so they showed all of his different characters. He's like, I just knew that if I brought in all these different characters, that it would be a hit. And something told him to play all these different characters, kind of like what you're talking about with the suspenders or the various characters that you would play. But he said, I knew if I could bring in all these different characters, from Shanae to Dragonfly Jones to
Romy Rome.
Jerome.
Don't forget
Yes.
Otis.
Yes.
Otis,
Otis,
the
yeah.
security guard.
The security guard.
We
He was
have a
doing
caller.
this.
We got a caller.
Oh,
Go.
color.
Hello, caller, you're on the air.
Hey.
Hey.
Hey, Roddy Rod. Well, you know, we're the platform for you, Roddy Rod. So whatever you need, look, I brought the best. I brought the best.
best.
Direct from the University of Southern California. Yes. Go ahead, Roddy. Any questions? I'm sorry, specific for our panelists, Rod?
Yes.
All right, Roddy Rod.
I would say most important, do it. Do it. Go out and do it. You have to make as many strangers laugh as possible. So what I would do is look, especially, we all start at open mics. I know that it's not always ideal, but yes, starting at an open mic. The great thing about an open mic is it's really self-driven. You put your name, you drive yourself there, you put your name in, and it's a workout, so you don't have to be perfect yet. That's where you can fail over and over, you can try things, and hopefully there at the open mic, when you continue to show up and do your best, other people who run independent shows will start asking you to be on their shows, and then you just work your way up, and then you start asking people you admire, where do you play, hey, can I come open for you, and you move up that way. But the most important thing is to do it and not worry too much about the results right now, but just to do it.
As Nike says, just do it.
Yes. Failure is part of the game. I remember I was so afraid to fail that when I got a big opportunity, I was so terrified of failing that opportunity. I could barely show up for it. I mean, I was sick for days. So the more you fail, the more you get good at failing, and it's just part of life. We eat it in comedy all the time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you want to say anything to that.
Yeah. Well, I think. Oh, go ahead. Oh gosh. I can do different.
Come on, Jess. Come on, Jess.
Do I have me? I don't know. Do I have a person?
Oh yeah, you do. You have all kinds of little voices that you.
Ricky! Oh, Ricky!
I don't know.
I can do the impression of the Cambodian.
All right.
Hey, Melvin, when you coming back next week? Next week, everybody, we're doing the power.
All right, Melvin, next
of
week we
the
need you.
DIC.
Oh.
You know what?
Oh, I should
That
come
part.
back for that.
Yes.
All right, Ryan.
Thank you.
Okay, great.
Love you, Ryan. Good night.
Oh, because you had done the power of the P.
We
Now
did
you're
the
doing
power of the P.
Yes.
Okay, well.
Yeah, look at Jess.
Oh, that. Okay. Because I was like, isn't the P the same as the D? Like,
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
there's a
Absolutely
different
is.
is, but then they popular
anatomically
demand
correct,
Oh.
it's a P.
said
It's a
that's
P.
what I was
I thought
thinking.
it would be the power of the P.
Of the other
It was
P.
voted down.
The
Yeah.
PENIS.
Yeah.
So it's,
Yeah.
it's reclaiming the power of the PUESSY.
That
Yeah.
So yeah.
Reclaiming that word. Right,
Yes.
yeah, got it.
But
I
for the
almost spelled that
fellas,
wrong.
it's the DIC.
Well, we got an
Okay.
uproar. Right.
I like how we're pretending like there's a bunch of 5-year-olds around us. Like, he can't.
Spelling the
Spelling.
SEX
There we are.
Yeah,
with the
yeah.
Well,
birds
there was such a
and the
reaction for doing
BEEZs.
the power of the P
Yeah.
that the brothers felt.
Yes.
They
Tell them
need
Dante.
that they had some power too.
They do. Dante,
So
yeah.
they wanted to talk about
Not
the
nearly as
power.
much. I'm
of
just
the
saying.
P.
The power of the P outweighs the power of the D.
So
Sorry,
I
guys.
invite all of you to return next week if you would like to be a part of
I'll
that
probably join that one.
explosive conversation.
Are you
Sounds
gonna
like a fun
talk
one.
about the balls, Lori?
Uh,
Are you gonna?
Can you
Your
do the
impression,
D
your
without the
impression.
B?
I'm pretty sure there will be talk about all of that. All of that.
That is pretty wild. Jessica's
Wild.
face, because she was like, "Ooh,
Well, there's a
It
lot.
took me a minute to put it all together. It's a
Well,
little slow sometimes.
power of the humor right there.
Yeah.
Put it-
Exactly. The show gets wild around here. It gets wild.
Yeah, that's fun.
Exactly. Yikes.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
So, I was gonna ask, I'm gonna go down my, Lauren, do you have anything before I keep going down my trail? I'm
No, you
sorry.
can keep going. I do have some questions, but I think you're on a roll, so let's not break that up.
Okie dokie. I have a couple words that I wanted to throw to the panel. And just kind of go down and see what it means to you. Justice. What does that word mean to you, broadly?
Well, I'll be honest, justice, the first thing I think of is I don't do enough,
Okay.
you know, to fight for justice. And in terms of comedy, I feel like just getting up on stage and saying what you have to say and talking about, I talk to my students a lot about transmuting the demon in your head, the talk, the self-talk, and bringing it out into the light can transmute it
Mm.
for yourself into power, into
Yeah.
comedy. And when you see other people laughing, it's so light. Laughter is light. You were talking about breathing. You know, in order to laugh, you have to breathe. It's so healthy. So I think that there's a personal justice when you get up in storytelling, comedy, writing, painting, anything, when you tell your story. And, but the first thing that came to mind is I need to do more myself. Yeah.
I appreciate that, thank you so much. What about you, Jessica? The word justice. What does it mean to you?
Justice, fair is a word that comes to mind. Fair, equality, and I think there's a lot of comedians who absolutely used comedy for justice.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Richard Pryor is a great
Yes.
example. I think George Carlin is a great example.
Dick Gregory.
Dick
Mhm.
Gregory.
Dick Gregory.
And then, you know,
Bill
you have
Maher.
Bill Maher,
Yeah.
you have the, you know, Colbert,
Mm.
who else? Noah from
I
The Daily
love
Show.
Noah.
From The Daily
And, you know,
Show.
you have all these
Yes,
people, and I
yes,
think,
yes.
you know, justice it's on a spectrum, you know, you've got the agitators, you've got people who are like on the front lines fighting for justice, and then you have people who have like little mini moments of where they speak up in a situation where you may be just sitting at a table and somebody says something, and so, and then you have stand-ups who can take politics and racism and make us all laugh because it's true and we see ourselves in it and make us think about it, so
Mhm.
that's what justice means to me.
Thank you.
Yes.
Appreciate it. Jeremiah, you're in the hot seat.
Justice is balance to me. There's, yeah, all things aren't equal in the world, you know, right? And at least as I understand them and experience them in the world, and so I see justice as balance. However, that balance has to happen. Balance has to be achieved, and I think some examples of great comedians who strike that balance very well are Samantha Bee is great. Ricky Gervais, he just roasted these Hollywood elites at the Golden Globes and did it so precisely, eloquently. This joke was bulletproof, and he like used current events, and he cited Greta Thunberg, and like said she has more education than you all out here, and it was fantastic the way he did it. If you
Wow.
all want to watch it on YouTube. Dave Chappelle is a genius at this. I mean, he can tell a 5-minute joke
Yes.
where he'll make you laugh like every 30 seconds, and the punchline for the entire joke
Yes.
comes around at the very end, and I'm like, oh my God, that was about a social issue.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
And
Elephant in the
He's so
room. The
good, yeah.
punchline comes 45 minutes later.
At the
and
end
you're
of the
like,
show.
Yes.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And I heard other comics talking about I guess this is like comic language. I just learned this the other day. But there's these things called laser beams, and maybe you can talk a little bit about this. Like that it was Seinfeld and anyway a big panel of Kevin Hart. They were all
Yes.
talking about how Dave Chappelle like can just dodge all of the laser beams, and I guess laser beams are things that you could get hit by that would upset someone. So it's not it turns from funny to not funny, and he's able to just like a ninja like dodge all of that stuff. And he talks about some very serious things, you know, and very controversial things as well. So I would say balance. Justice is balance, and I think those are examples of great examples of people who use humor with balance. Yeah.
And may I just say
Yeah.
about the laser beams, I think what's great about Dave Chappelle, what makes him a master, is that he's very self-aware. He's aware of what he's saying, and it's when Judd Apatow came to speak to the drama school, he said, you know, somebody said, can we joke? Are there things we can't joke about? And he said, I hope I say this right, but he said, whatever you say, you have to believe it. And so what's great about Dave, he believes in what he's saying, he knows it's gonna cause problems, so he's able to either call it out or dodge it in a way by bringing up some other aspect of maybe the back door, front door kind of thing. He's just a genius, and he's a mixer. He wants us to think. He really is using his stage time for good,
Yeah.
and he's not a pushover, and
No.
it's so great. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a family friend, his name is Tom Dreesen, and he's a comedian, he used to open up for Frank Sinatra.
Wow.
For years and years and years, and like Sammy Davis and all these people, and I go and see him perform at the Laugh Factory every once in a while, and then we'll go to Greenblatt's next door, and he'll like impart this ridiculous wisdom to me, and he's just the kindest, most generous person ever. But one of the things that he had said to us is that like somebody told him this, and I don't remember who it is, but that nobody, like there's always someone who is the victim of the joke, and there's really no joke where nobody or nothing is the victim, but it's just in how it's just like how you deliver it, and how, you know, and like with the confidence like Dave Chappelle does, you know, it's like you can't, like that, when I was first starting stand up, I had the hardest time writing jokes because I was like, no, I can't do that, it's gonna offend those people, alright, no, that's gonna offend those people, no, I can't say that, like it was so hard, because I was like, no, it, like every little thing, and then at some point you just have to go, well, fuck it, like,
Right.
somebody's gonna be offended, I can't please everybody, what do I wanna say, and what is my voice, what am I trying to say, so, I think when I see someone like Dave Chappelle, I'm just like, holy crap, like
Yeah.
bow down to that, because it's just like, it takes a lot of courage and confidence in who you are in your voice, and to know your morals and what you wanna say to
And that
deliver
only-
something like that.
That only comes with time. Like he's just done it for so long, he's probably heard it all. And you will get there too. And I will. And we all get there, hopefully. I mean, maybe not, I don't know if I'll become Dave Chappelle, but, you know, like, that takes time. He's a master because he's put in those reps
many
over and
hours,
over
yeah.
again.
And
What about Roseanne Barr? Come on. Yeah, let's go there, let's go.
let's go there.
Yikes radio.
Yeah, yikes.
Yeah.
Super yikes.
Look at the little Jessica's face right now. Okay.
I'm honestly, because I'm honestly not familiar with her stand-up. Like
Yeah.
I'm not
Until she
familiar
came out,
with
she
it.
kinda, she just went off the Richter on me, but I did love,
I loved that show.
I mean, I watched a show by, have you seen her stand-up before? Oh, you have, okay. So you're
Yes.
familiar
I
with
mean,
her?
older.
Right.
Yes,
her
older.
starting,
Yes.
what would you categorize?
Slice of life, being a domestic goddess, you know, blue collar, yeah.
Yeah.
She wasn't such a mixer
Mm.
back then. Yeah, I'm not sure what's happening with Roseanne.
I don't think anyone.
I don't know.
Jeremiah, you pleaded it.
I just
See
remember.
Jay Chappelle on the.
I know. I was thinking of all the Dave Chappelle like skits from his show. Like, remember when he was the blind KKK leader?
Oh, wow.
Oh my God! That, like, talk about controversial and flipping a thing on its head and fucking hilarious. So I don't know, but the Roseanne Barr, I just remember. I remember she had a hit show, and I know my friend Carl, his mom, she so his mom's passed away, rest in peace. She was white, his dad is black, and she really identified with the show. So the show would be on all the time. She had 8 kids, and he was one of the kids, and so they had Roseanne on all the time, and so I remember just like it being in the background like a screensaver, you know what I mean? And just like, you know, just like ambient music, you know, and I just remember John Goodman being like great, and then them having like a great rapport together, and then I remember she got in trouble for like spitting and grabbing her crotch at a baseball game or something, and she thought that was funny, and I remember like people just hated her for that, and I just remember her being a really controversial person, and then was kind of looking forward to, because I just remembered like kind of like vague memories of her show, looking forward to her show coming back, but then she, I guess, you know, lost her mind and like got the show canceled,
Yeah.
single-handedly. You know?
I went to a taping of The Conners recently though, and John Goodman is just so fun to watch, and obviously
He's a comedian, right?
Jackie, Aunt Jackie,
Oh, yes.
like she's
She's
a
funny.
master.
Oh my
she had a scene all by herself. Why am I blanking on her name? I know her name. Lori
Metcalf.
Metcalf.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I've seen her on Broadway. Like she's a Chicago person. I love her. She had one scene by herself, and they did one take, and they're like, okay, moving on.
Yeah,
Just like such a
you're
pro.
a genius.
Yeah, but you know, the show seems to be doing okay without.
Without
Hey,
her.
girl.
Yes.
They just killed her and kept on moving.
They
Yeah.
did. They did. They just like.
Killed her and kept on
I
moving.
never,
That's what
what was
happened.
the exit,
Heart
what was
attack,
the
I think?
exit plan?
They killed her.
She had a
OD.
heart
She had a
attack.
heart
Oh, she had an
attack.
overdose. She
was,
OD'd.
Oh, she
on
OD'd?
drugs.
Oh, I didn't
She
know
was
that.
Oh my God,
taking,
it's
Oh,
so bad.
damn,
as a
they
drug
didn't
addict.
even like.
Yeah, I mean, they found that out after,
Oh, good.
which the
Damn.
heart attack was induced by
Dang,
her
they
being
went
on
hard.
Yeah, they
They're
were
like,
just
we're
like,
not gonna
oh,
kill
she
you in
had
your
too many
sleep.
Cheetos.
We're gonna give you, like
Yes.
a
Well, I mean,
goddamn
And they made sure
overdose.
she, that
And a-
character's not coming.
I mean, yeah, if we're
She's
doing, if we're
dead.
talking about like, you know,
Yeah.
opioid epidemic
Yeah,
and
she
all
was
that,
like
like they were
a
gonna
opioid user.
take on that
Yeah.
issue, they,
wow.
And
you
she
know.
OD'd, and
Yeah.
it was hard for, what's the dad's name? Dan?
Dan, yeah.
And
Dan
for
Palmer.
them and the kids to accept that about her, that she wasn't that type of person.
Yes.
Blah, blah, blah. And then I stopped watching. My
That's
attention
great
span is
writing.
really
Yeah,
short.
it's
Go
great.
ahead.
I mean, I agree. I agree with you.
Because I mean, her comedy, she kind of goes in like a pretty like, dang way, but like that's
Mhm.
like her whole comedy is like in your face type stuff. And then they struggle with her, you know, being in present day kind of, you know, a racist, problematic woman. And then she had problematic addiction. So yeah, I like that. It's good writing.
I think I absolutely agree with you. Like that is a classy and true to form
Right.
way to deal with it.
Mhm.
Yeah, totally agree. Roseanne Barr was so important to us as I'm 52 now, so as a young comic, half the room at an open mic in the 90s was women. And it was because we had Roseanne Barr and Brett Butler and Ellen DeGeneres. It's because of those women that there were so many women on the scene. So I feel like I owe her a lot. And it's, you know, it's sort of, it's sad. I mean, nobody asked me my opinion, but I do think when you get, I guess, but when you get insulated and you just sort of cycle around your own thoughts, your own life, weird things happen. You have to keep interacting with people, you know, and I don't know, I think a lot of celebrities kind of get trapped. It's not all their fault in their own world, and then, just like me, when I'm stuck in my apartment, when I don't go outside, I get a little screwy in the head. Yeah,
100%.
yeah.
Yeah, you gotta socialize, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think something that's always difficult too is like Bill Cosby was like the example of a black family for a lot of people.
Yes.
Like we could like desire to be.
Yes.
And just like seeing that be, that whole image desecrated.
Yes.
It's hard just differentiating the art from the artist.
So
So,
true.
like,
It is hard.
you know, the person that's doing the art, the celebrity, it's like they could be doing whatever they're doing in their day, but how they perform what they give to you
Yes.
is just so powerful. And
Yes.
just that, separating that is always hard when, you know, they do these things like,
And they're human.
Like drug
That's
people,
what I'm saying.
yeah.
What did you
Yeah.
say?
but like you said, they're
He
human.
said like
and
drug
they-
people.
They,
Yeah.
they make
That's what he did.
mistakes, but it's like
He
what
did,
they're
yeah,
doing
like drug
is so
people.
divine for you.
It's
almost,
true.
because they're teaching
But he had,
you,
like,
they're
Oh, yeah.
showing you,
sex
they're giving you
addiction.
so much power, but
Bill
Yeah.
Cosby, oh, Dad is great. He gave us the chocolate cake. I know that whole thing word for word.
Me
And
too.
I have Jerry Lewis tattooed on my ankle.
I used to love Jerry
love-
Lewis.
I love
The
Jerry
original
Lewis.
Nutty Professor.
Yes, that's
Yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah.
And I got to meet him, and I gave him a
Did
low.
you?
Oh yeah, I gave him a low hug, and I was like weepy, and I
Oh,
loved
wow.
him. And I have this little tattoo. He
I
didn't
grew
want
up
to look
with
at it.
him in
I know.
Dean Martin.
Oh yes, so good.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
When I was home alone a lot, I would turn on Tom Hatton on KTLA, that afternoon movie, and he played a lot of Jerry Lewis, and it would just make me laugh. But then, right after that, he went to the Aspen Comedy Festival and said that women aren't funny. He started that whole conversation. I mean, he didn't start it, but he said it out loud. And
Wow.
it's heartbreaking. It's like he was my hero so much that I put him on my body. And then he says that
Sorry.
what I do, I can't be good at. Yeah, it was
Mm.
heartbreaking. So true.
Yeah, it's hard to separate the art from the artist. In certain situations, certain scenarios. I think I'm gonna call on Dave Chappelle or invoke his name right now because he does it masterfully. You know, like he has a stand-up bit about Bill Cosby. He has a stand-up bit about Michael Jackson. He has
Yes.
a stand-up bit about O.J. Simpson and the
Yes.
4 times that he met O.J. Simpson. And like he's just masterful at being able to do that. I think that's a fascinating question because like like Bill Cosby, Roseanne, they gave so many people their starts too. Like bunches of like Bill Maher is like one of the most paid comedians, right? Like he's got this show that's been running for decades, Real Time or whatever. And when Roseanne got in trouble, he said like I could not get arrested in this town. I couldn't find a job, and she hired me on the show, and I got like a jump start. You
Yes.
know? Yeah.
There is an issue in comedy. Like a lot of comedians are wondering, what is comedy anymore if we can't say things?
Right.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like you were even back backed into a corner because you were afraid to say things. And I think a lot of comedians are fighting against that big time.
Yeah.
But what I like about Dave is Dave tells us how he feels. I don't think anything Dave's gonna do is gonna surprise us. I don't wanna jinx anything,
Yeah.
but I think he tells us who he is, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Feels like a conversation today. Like it feels like
Yes.
he's
Yeah.
just talking
Yeah,
to
you're
you,
at home with him, right?
And he's
Yeah.
telling you his wild opinion.
Yes.
And you can't like be upset about it because it's really funny.
Yes, it's so true.
I
You
like
can-
the Keeping It Real Goes Wrong series.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's like it's always from his perspective. Always, it's like, you know, my son came up to me today and he was like, "Dad," and then he tells this whole long story again, like another 5-10 minute joke about how he takes his son asks him to take him to the Kevin Hart comedy concert,
Oh, yeah.
and there's this whole thing, and it's just magnificent. But it's always from his perspective. But at the very end, it ends up like, you know, he's angry at this person. You know, like you said, someone has to be the victim, and Kevin Hart is the victim in this joke.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they must be friends. You know what I mean? They must be. Yeah.
That's awesome sauces, Lori.
It is.
I know you had some, did you want to mention some of your items?
I did, well, before we get there, I'm just interested, briefly, since we're kind of talking about what people can and cannot say, what you all felt about Kevin Hart's decision, was it last year?
To not do the Oscars?
Not to do the Oscars because of comments he had said, very early on in his career. Do you agree with his decision not to do them, or?
You know, I have to say, I'm really sorry that I haven't seen the special yet, because I think he talks more about why he made that decision.
He does.
But I love Kevin Hart. It just makes me laugh. I love him so much. And so maybe if you know, was his argument that he just didn't want to deal with it, that he had apologized, he didn't want to get in, have more discussion and more debate and more people talking, that he just took himself out so he didn't have to go through that? Does anybody know if that's why?
I didn't know. I think it was about a principle. I think he wouldn't do it anymore because they re-offered it to him,
They
and then
re-offered
he
it.
declined. He's
Uh-huh.
like, "No, I'm not going to do it." And then that's when they just went hostless.
Yeah.
They didn't do a host. That I respect his decision to adhere to a principle. Like, I admire and respect the person who is unwavering on a principle. Like, a principle should guide you through different situations, scenarios, no matter what, right? Like, whatever that is. And that was a principle for him. And I mean, we all make mistakes. And like, he had said something or did something, it was like a decade or more previously.
Yeah.
And so someone found something. Sure, right? If you dig, you know, long and hard enough, you can find anything on probably anybody that they wouldn't be proud of necessarily. But I don't think that means that he should necessarily miss out on an opportunity today. If he apologized for it, and I'm not now that part I don't know what happened, but I know that he had stuck to a principle and then was like, "No, thank you, Oscars. I'm not going to do it." I admire someone sticking to their principles. That's admirable. Whatever the reasons are, you know.
You know, I had some queer students in my class who, I thought the same thing. I thought, you know, it was a while ago, our minds have grown and evolved, and you know, but I had some queer students in my class that are like, no, he said horrible things, and I don't want that guy doing my Oscars. And, you know, I have to respect that.
Sure.
That is their,
Go ahead, Dante, dear.
Why is it they Oscars?
good question.
Cause like, I feel like you said, he apologized for what he said. Yes, he was wrong. It was in the wrong. We also adhered to the time where everybody was saying wrong stuff in that period, and he did show remorse. I think he could have shown more actions. I think that's the best way. You know, you apologize is maybe, I break some bread. You know, give some people some money. You know, start some conversations, get in uncomfortable spaces. But I feel like that was an attack on him, and like. He just got the Oscars call. That was something from decades ago, and like you said, somebody has to dig for that. So
Yes.
all of this stuff, I just feel like there's just so much just attacking people in the media once they are getting to a certain level or a certain status. It's always like, all right, how are we gonna break this person down? How are we gonna get them down? Because that year, you know, Kevin Hart was coming off one of the biggest years of a comedic tour, and then you can't do the Oscars anymore.
One of my students said it great in class the other day, like literally last week. he said, cancel culture is whack. And I was like, that's the truth,
You gotta
right?
forgive
That's
people, bro. Like,
well-
people gotta grow. Like,
and also, like, it doesn't mean that you should be exiled for the rest of your career, you know, if you've done a thing. And like, certain things are egregious, you break the law, you gotta go before, you know, whatever the law requires. But if you did something a decade ago, I mean, we're all different people from 10 years ago. I hope we are, you know, like that sounds like a pretty, you could be, I would say, be offended at what he said 10 years ago, but that's not who he is today. Or if he is that person today, well then, like, let's address that. But I admired, I don't think what he said 10 years ago or however long it was good. I think it was bad, but he did apologize, and he's a different person than who he is. I have a good friend who like hardcore drug addict for like over 20 years, was in and out of prison for over 20 years. He cleaned his life up, and then he became an actor. And he's like working. He just did a commercial, like a national commercial yesterday, and he sent me the pictures on it. And Anthony Vitale, shout out. And I mean, this is an example of, like, you know, redemption is possible. You know what I mean? And if you don't have the option or the opportunity to redeem yourself, and someone is consistently going to be upset with you, and you can't have the opportunity to apologize, I think that's a detriment to healing. You know.
I had a student in my class come, a young student, crying that he was afraid that the way he had behaved at a party was going to haunt him 10 years down the line.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And he was distraught. I had to help him get connected with with Engelman, with
Oh,
the
wow.
yes,
Oh, wow.
mental health care, because he was absolutely convinced that this, you know, teenage fumbling at a party was going to come back to get him.
Well, I mean, with social media now, it's
Yes.
like, you don't
Yeah,
know.
don't
With
put
Brett
nothing on
Kavanaugh
there.
days, like, they can
Yes.
say
Yeah.
whatever happened, and it's just whoever was there.
Right.
But now, like, if somebody put it on their Insta story,
Yes.
then that's, you know, that's
Yep.
different.
That's proof.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, we are having an amazing time
We
here
are.
at the Poetry of Justice show. So Judith, now Miss Jessica, she's a vet here, and of course Jeremiah. But what we do about this time is we take a little bit of a break, Judith, and it kind of gives us a time to kind of re-up some of our IT stuff. But it's just a chance for me to be me and listen to my ghetto music at the break. So that's what we're gonna do. We'll be right back. We're gonna talk about mental health, everybody. When we come back.
Dance party.
Yay.
Dance.
Mental health